Welcome to the Bell Cow Author Roundup podcast, where we celebrate Minnesota's incredible fiction authors and the stories that make our literary scene so vibrant. I'm Rob Jung.
And I'm Michael MacBride. Together, we're the team behind Bell Cow Productions and the Bell Cow Catalog, a digital catalog designed to connect Minnesota authors with readers, libraries, and indie bookstores.
The catalog will be heading to all 377 Minnesota libraries, 80 plus indie bookstores, plus those in border cities such as Sioux Falls, Fargo, Superior, and La Crosse.
And now with this podcast, we get to bring those amazing voices to life. Every episode features one of our herd members talking about their books, their writing journey, and the stories behind the stories.
And before we start, let us apologize for all the cow-related puns you're about to hear.
All right, let's dig in.
Welcome. We are so happy to have Mary Seifert with us on the Bell Cow podcast. Welcome to the herd, Mary.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So we know we do this to help you get your name and face and your books in front of people as part of the Bell Cow catalog. And so we would love to know some about your background and how you got into writing, and we'll sort of ask you questions as you go. But this is really all about you and your books.
I loved to read forever, and I love to write. I wasn't thinking I was ever going to be a writer, though. I was going to be a math teacher or a music teacher, a band director. So I have an undergraduate degree in mathematics and music. But when I went away to college, I still loved the idea of writing. So I wrote short stories and I submitted them to Good Housekeeping, and they were rejected a long time ago.
Of course.
But I wrote and I continued to write on the side. That was what I did to keep just things on a different level. Because I was a math teacher, I wanted something artistic, and that was sort of artistic. I played in a band, so I got to do a little bit of the music too, and that was the what got me going. But I wrote science fiction for a long time, but I could only write the first 10 pages because you have to know a whole world in science fiction, and it's all fake.
I love it.
I'd have to start over and come up with another new world. And that was, I loved science fiction to read, but I couldn't write science fiction. Then when my kids were grown and out of the house, mystery seemed to be more fun for me to write. And that's why I started writing mysteries. So I wrote the first one in 2013, and I sent it out not knowing what I was doing to many different agents and got many different rejections. I got some telephone calls from lovely people, though. A person from New York called, and in 2013, when your phone rings and it says New York, you think, I'm not going to answer that because I don't know anybody in New York. But I did, and she was lovely. She said, and she had this very, very low voice, if you did this, it would be much better. And so those things that she suggested, and she took a look at it, and she gave me some very helpful hints along the way. I went to a History Center presentation in Kandiyohi County in 2014, and they told us about a county called Monongalia, which in 1870 was part of Minnesota. And the county seat of Monongalia County was Columbia. And if you go to Spicer, Minnesota, and you find Parada Park, there is a rock. And on that rock, it said, and here lies what used to be Columbia. But in 1870, they decided they weren't going to have Monongalia County, and it merged with Kandiyohi County, which is where I was living. So I thought, this is really great. I can write about my location. I can write about where I was living and call it Columbia, and nobody will actually be offended because I'm not using Spicer and I'm not using Wilmer, but I can use all the geographic information. I can use all the landmarks. I could use a big lake in my stories, and it can be real to me. So I can have my stories have a real geography. And then I found, so I had a place for my story to be where I could really write it with my heart there. And then I also had a friend of mine who took me to Baseball and Women, and we were standing outside, and she said, "What'd you do today?" And I said, "Well, I was writing a story." And she said, "Well, can I read it?" And I said, "Well, no, you can't read it." And she said, "Why not?" And I said, "Because I didn't finish it." And she said, "Well, finish it." So I finished it again, and I started resubmitting it. And then in 2021, I got a call from Columbine Publishing Group, and they wanted to publish it. So I have my books.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it was really, really, really fun. It was exciting. And I got to use all the special things that I really love because I do use a math teacher in my stories. Not that I'm that math teacher, but some of the stories that she tells or that I tell through her, some of my former students will go, I remember when that happened.
You can't
Well,
help but channel some of those things, you know? I mean, I think
Oh,
as a writer, you need to fill in those gaps and like you have stories that are just ripe for the picking. So like
oh
do
yeah.
it.
Yeah, yes, yes.
well,
And math is so, colorful and there's so much going on.
there are two things that I need to bring up. Number one is a large black dog, which
Yes.
plays a major role in your books. So talk to us
I-
about that.
And it's 50% of the series name as well. So
Yes, it is. He does 50% of the work as well. We had a black lab named Maverick, who was a lovely dog, a lovely family dog. I was working for Rice Hospice at the time, which would have been 2015. We started a hospice therapy dog program. And I was in on the groundwork there, which I was very grateful for because those dogs are fabulous dogs. I went through the testing, through the evaluation, through the training of those dogs. And when we got to our first class of graduates, they wanted to show everybody what the difference is because everybody loves their dogs. And a lot of them have remarkable capabilities. They can do wonderful things. But I knew that my dog would not ever succeed in a hospital setting. He was afraid of different floors. So when you go from a carpet to a
Uh,
tile, he would stop. Getting on an elevator and doing that little jerk thing would really make him kind of cower. He was a great hunter. He was an outdoors dog, but there were definitely things that would not work in a particular setting. In addition, he loved to pull and he liked to bark, and those things can't happen in a hospital.
right, that is definitely not a good thing.
No. So we decided that we wanted it because it was in the initial stages of training, we wanted to teach everybody what it looked like to have a really, really fine hospice therapy dog and another really, really good dog that wouldn't fit the program. So I brought him in for the evaluation and I got to the door of the hospital and he sniffed every square inch. Of course, there were all kinds of new smells and all kinds of new people. And he back and forth all the way up to when we had to go to the third floor. So we had to ride the elevator again. And he passed every part of it except that he would pull and he would bark and he would hesitate to go through the floors. So even though he was a really, really good dog, he didn't make hospice therapy dog material. We, however, loved him, and he has remarkable stories like jumping on the table and pulling people through water and into water and around water. And so all those kinds of things I get to include in my books. So everything that Maverick does in my stories that's a little bit on the colorful side, that looks like it's a bad dog, that would be my Maverick. And all the wonderful things that happen are things that I got from those therapy dogs that I got to work with because they are remarkable dogs. They have fabulous abilities. And I also worked with a Boy Scout leader because my sons were in Boy Scouts, who was a trainer for search and rescue in Minnesota. So he was telling me stories that were also very helpful for my Maverick and my stories.
Wow, that's wonderful.
That's my big black dog.
and the other thing is, and Michael, I'm not sure you know this, but Mary writes maybe the best newsletter of any author I have ever run across.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and she has one really interesting, I mean, many interesting things, her puzzles and her math and lots of conversation about Maverick and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that I think is really neat is that you have your readers take a picture of the book cover and send it to you from some exotic place that they're traveling.
Yes.
So
so fun.
Yeah. So my question is, what is the most exotic place you've received a picture of one of your book covers from?
Well, the beginning of this month, it was Bosnia and Herzegovina. Croatia and Montenegro. And the pictures that she sent were absolutely beautiful. She had them on top of great big bridges. And so every time I get these pictures, I think that is so cool. And then I hope that they maybe leave the book and not have to carry it home with them among all of their other treasures. But it's really fun. It's been all over, and I'm excited about when they send the pictures.
Have your books been done in other languages?
They have not. They have not.
Okay,
No.
I just wondered because they're really well traveled. As an avid follower of your newsletter, I can vouch for the fact
well more traveled than I.
they're worldwide.
Well traveled, but not translated yet.
No.
No.
So. I love it. So how did you come with the premise then of the dog and Katie? And I mean, you covered the setting and the context and the world, right? But tell us a little bit about the two characters, the other half of the story, I guess, not the big black dog.
So Katie wanted to be a cryptologist, and that's where all of the puzzles kind of appear in the stories. Her ability to solve puzzles, to decode, to decrypt, or encode and encrypt messages help some of the times to come up with solutions to various crimes that are happening in the stories. So she started out going to school there. She, of course, wasn't supposed to meet anybody that she should fall in love with, but she did. And things didn't work out the way she wanted. So she decided that that wasn't going to be the life she was going to lead. And because of her background, mathematics was a job that she could fall back on. And in the first story, you find out that she applied all kinds of places, and the first job that she got was a math teacher. So she's a math teacher.
So how much of that is autobiographical?
No, not all of that. No.
Oh,
Wishful thinking. I mean, gee, to be a cryptographer would be so cool, but no. No.
So you had mentioned having some of the puzzles and ciphers and that kind of things. Would you mind? You held up one that was circular that looked really interesting to me. Tell me a bit about that one.
So it's for CryptoQuip solutions. This particular one was used, it's a replica, of course, from the Civil War. So you would have a code that was known to both sides, and they would say, you know, we're going to have 97 be an L. And then with the rings situated, you could encode and then decode all the messages. So this would be for a CryptoQuip, just numbers and letters. This is a cryptex. So it actually has a code, and you would line everything up and then it opens up. This one is sold to be a way to ask someone to marry them because inside is a ring.
Oh, wow. That's cute.
Cool.
I like it.
And I used a Rubik's Cube as a way to do a solution for book number 2. This one is a 4x4, and I could look up how to solve it online.
I was going to say that wasn't the standard size that I got in the 80s. That was the 3x3, but
yeah, this is a 4. I needed more letters. So I used a 4x4. I can solve it, but I have to follow direction.
Cool.
So how many books have you written so far?
I have published 10. I have completed 11 as of yesterday.
Oh, well, congratulations.
What happens?
Yeah, that's celebration time.
So what's the title to the one you just completed?
The working title is Golf, Ghost, and Guilt. And each of the books, because they are her first year teaching, happen each month of the year. So the first book is September, the second book is October. This book happens in June. And as a teacher, she has free time. So she's looking for a job, and she becomes a beverage cart girl on a golf course.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I love the fact that she moves, that you move her around into different opportunities for murders to happen and things like that,
I have to do that. They don't happen in school yet.
Thank you. Thank God.
No, they don't happen in school.
Yeah.
But the kids do help her solve some of them. So that's kind of a plus.
Well, would you give us a taste of whatever one you've prepared? I know you had books 9 and 10.
I do. I'm going to read the beginning of one because it kind of tells how she ends up doing what she's doing.
Perfect.
The bullets changed everything for me. Sometimes I wished I'd taken a bullet too because I lost the most important men in my life. My dad still fought every day to reclaim his confidence, mobility, and wit from the bullet that creased his brain. But my husband of 17 days took our dreams with him when he died. They never caught the shooter. Promise me. Charles' bloody hands gripped mine. Promise me you'll be happy. I had tried to keep that promise, so after a year of indulging my sorrow and wading through mind-numbing platitudes, I threw away the flood of sympathy cards and letters I needed to return to the world to sink or swim. And my stepmother wanted me out of there anyway. At her insistence, and to the surprise of my therapist, I circulated my resume. Neither of them, however, congratulated me when I accepted a position 150 miles from home, new town, new people, a job in my area of expertise. Truth be told, I accepted the only offer I received, teaching high school math. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't apprehensive. I missed the fairy tale life I'd planned, an adoring husband, challenging job, devoted family. But I packed my meager belongings and moved to Columbia, Minnesota, determined to make it my home. The gem of a town snugged into prairie grasses surrounded by rich farmland, acreage dedicated to wildlife management, and lots of water. Following a second fruitless week of apartment hunting, I returned to the bed and breakfast with a little less spring in my step. He was a real gentleman today. Let me get him, said the desk clerk. He disappeared into the recesses of the office. I heard the rhythmic click of nails across the tile floor before I saw him, and steeled myself for the onslaught of Maverick's ecstatic welcome. He rounded the desk and buried his black nose between my legs, drooling all over. His tail wumped against the desk and he pawed my thigh. Sit, I said. Sit! Maverick jumped and licked my face, then circled behind me, wrapping the leash around my legs before his rump hit the floor. He missed you! Look, he's smiling! Maverick gazed at me with sparkling brown eyes. To me, it looked like he was laughing. Find anything today? I've been searching for a place to park my belongings, anxious to live life out of a closet instead of a suitcase. The Monongalia bed and breakfast provided good food, clean bedding, daily vacuuming, and fresh towels every other day, but the expense was eating into my savings and my first paycheck was weeks away. Nothing yet. Do you have any hot prospects for me? Mr. Walsh had recommended a cheery coffee shop, a delightful deli, a local market, walking paths, and a hardware store that had one of just about everything except apartments. The film people will be finishing up soon. He tapped a notice on the front desk. The words written in cherry red markers stood out. Servers needed, great pay. The attached article stated that although most of the filming had been completed on a sound stage built for the movie, when the director needed a crowd, he came home for the extras, and a docudrama about the Titanic needed plenty of extras. After months of shooting, the director planned to recreate the famed ship's final dinner and take promotional shots. You should do it. Half the town is in the movie. You'll see Columbia in all its red carpet glory and know what you're getting yourself into. Maverick stood and pulled at the leash. I sighed. The clerk said with a satisfied grin, he can stay with me Friday night. The promised compensation would help stretch my dwindling funds, so I signed my name on the next line, Katie Wilk.
Like
Love it. Yeah.
That is really good. And I like the fact that you read it with such alacrity. I mean, you are obviously enjoying your story, the one you have written, and it shows through.
It's so much fun. And honestly, I have met the most wonderful people. It's funny because I was talking to a reader in Winstead. I went to a book signing, a book talk in Winstead, and she said she was a romance writer. And I was talking about sisters in crime, and I was talking about mystery writers in general, and how welcoming and wonderful, and it just great fun. And she looked at me like I was like off on some other planet. Maybe I was writing science fiction. No, it was in Winstead. And she said everybody that she talked to was very careful not to share. They were very, they kept private. They weren't really friendly. And then I said, I think I've said this before, I think all the murder mystery writers, they write all the bad stuff on the page and they don't have anything left. It's all fun.
Yeah, the murder mystery community of writers is quite encompassing.
Yes.
And you don't find many people who are trying to hide what they're writing under a bushel basket.
No,
So
no.
In fact, I mean, I find people to almost invite conversation and like, I'm kind of thinking about this, like, what do you think? You know,
yeah,
you know, as much as they talk about writing being solitary experience, I mean, you collaborate in all kinds of ways and bounce ideas off each other. So
so
I always feel bad for people who have that experience or that I haven't had that. So, but
No, it's I am very fortunate too. I think the same thing. I just felt it felt bad that she said, "Oh, you mean you get to talk to somebody you can talk about your work and it's just always so much fun." So,
it's
but
real easy to get into the habit of writing in a silo, because the writing part itself is quite solitary. But
yep,
do you have a group that you write with, a critique group, or?
I do. I have two other guppies that we share our work with and go back and forth and kind of just comment on whether or not we think it could actually happen or whether we might be saying one thing and we are writing something else. I mean, we're thinking one thing and they're reading something else, which is very helpful because I know what I meant to write and I know what I think I wrote, but somebody else just reading it without an explanation might say, but this is what I got out of it. And that's been very helpful. So there are two, and we do that online. One's in Ohio and one's in New York. I did read the one from New York. She was at BoucherCon last year. That was fun.
Oh, in Nashville.
Yes, yes, it was really fun.
So Mary and I were both in New Orleans for BoucherCon this year.
nice.
And, we got a chance to hang out a bit, and I would be really curious about a couple of things. First of all, in light of all the traveling that your books have done, would it be a Mediterranean cruise or a ride on the Orient Express?
Orient Express.
Okay, why?
I love Agatha Christie. Oh, and that would just be that. Yeah, that would be really, really nice.
You
That
know,
would.
they actually still do the Paris to Istanbul trip about 3 times a year, even though that's the Orient Express stopped running about 1970 something, I think.
Yeah,
So
just amazing. And I think doing some of the real things are so much fun too. I mean, anything that you read about and then you actually see or experience, I think makes it so much more incredible to read about and to write about. So
So
train wreck.
we almost always ask something about what you're known for cooking. I happened to look on your webpage and noticed that you had recipes, but they're all cocktail recipes, which is a different kind of preparation.
And
Is,
they're very well practiced recipes. Let me tell you, we taste tested well.
so I'm curious, cooking or cocktail, I guess, like what are you most known for?
I am not known for cooking. Yes, my son is lovely. Mother, that's terrific. You never have to make it again.
oh my. When
Politically
my
correct.
when my mother turned 80, we held a family reunion, and in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, brought out the family from all over the country. And in the big celebration, the one of the things we did was we made this giant toasted cheese sandwich, burnt on both sides, because that was her signature. So that was part of it. So we understand about people that don't necessarily cook.
But my husband is wonderful.
So what's the favorite book that you own, other than your own, of course?
I think The Reaper.
Oh my goodness, you con artist, you.
No, I have a whole shelf full of Minnesota authors, and that would be really hard to pick any one of them out. However, I really do. And you know what? It changes every day.
Yeah.
my favorite. It does.
Is-
I just finished um, The Correspondent, and it was very interesting. It's not a mystery, but when I finished it, I was thinking that it was exactly like one of my friends. So it was real life to me. I mean, it was like this is her life. It's about a person who writes letters to everybody all the time. And that's
Interesting.
kind of a lost art. So that was interesting. And that was what I finished today. So today I think that one's pretty cool. I like that. Um, I think probably one of my favorite is the Charles Dickens Oliver Twist. I have one of a set, and I love that. Oliver, and yeah.
Okay.
We were chatting before we started recording about Charles Dickens and our shared appreciation of him. So I'm curious then, it kind of lends the question, have you ever thought about writing something serially?
No. I when I write, if I get stuck, I go to the end and I do the end. So I couldn't write in a serial if I had to go in order. So yeah, no, it wouldn't work
I
for me.
am one of the things I learned in that graduate class was about how, he sold them serially and neighborhoods would share copies of their sections, and then at the end of it you could pay to have it bound, or you could buy a bound version. So like he was kind of the precursor for some of these like different editions of books.
Netflix.
Um,
He's a precursor for Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah. He was very, very clever. He was also, by the way, a magician. Did you know that?
Did not.
Charles Dickens was I would say not a professional, but he was an amateur magician. So for whatever that's worth. So who's your auto buy? Who with regardless of without ever worrying about what the title is, who when they write a new book, who you have to buy it?
Oh, now I've got the same long list of Minnesota authors because every time they come out, they're on my list. They go right down the line. Um,
Okay.
um, I think that's my biggest treat is because I know those people or I've met many of them, and it makes
Mhm.
it so much more fun to buy something that when you know the person. Let's see. I'll think beyond that though. I've always read Joanne Fluke. She writes the Hannah Swenson Cozy Mysteries. I've always read hers. I always read Diane Mott Davidson when her new ones came out. So, and she hasn't been writing for a number of years, but I always made sure that I bought the next one when it came out as well. Um, I think, yeah.
Okay.
Typically, we'd ask you if you're a plotter or a pantser, but I think you answered that question by saying that you write the ending sometimes. So I'm curious, just as a process person, what is your process? Like, how do you map it out? What does that look like for you?
I have a big whiteboard, and it's almost like the crime board that you see on television. Who did it, who's the victim, the suspects, what their agenda is, what their alibis might be, what their lies might be, why they might be lying. Um, and because it's a whiteboard, I can erase it and then change it, which is very helpful. So I kind of know those things, and that's why I can write the ending because I know, except for one time when I changed it. I know who did it. I know how they did it. I know why they did it. So I can write the ending, and then I can come back and then keep going in the middle. So I have that part plotted out, but I do not do a detailed outline. Just I know all my facts.
You
Love it.
know, how they did it, why they did it, blah blah blah. But do you know as you start to write how they are apprehended, how they are found out?
Usually because I use a code or a puzzle in the book as well, and that's also part of that plotting of my
Okay.
book. So I know what the puzzle is that I want to use in the story, and then I work through how to make that be the reason that Katie wins, that she finds out who did it.
Are you running out of? I mean, you're talking about a small town, a small geographical area. Are you running out of dead people?
Not yet. She keeps going other places. So book number 10, she took her students to Atlanta for a national competition. So I got to have the murder happen in Atlanta. In book number 2, the murder happened on the way back. Actually, it was Alexandria, but it was on the way back from North Dakota. So she goes out of her little Columbia to other places, which then give her a wider range. But about book number 4, I have a brother-in-law who is an attorney. Imagine that. And he said, you can't have, a murder every book because we've got this small town. And my answer was, Luke, it's fiction. I don't know what, it was just one of those things. And then he also came back and he said that I spelled one of the names wrong.
According to whose dictionary?
Yeah,
not mine. Yeah, I am the family historian, and I have the birth records, death records, marriage certificates. I have deeds. I have bills from 1969 for. I got a family box. I have it here. I got this box, and in this box are all the family secrets. And
a blackmail box.
He said, "You spelled that name wrong," and I said, I kept track of all those names. That name is spelled 14 different ways. I'm pretty sure I can spell it any way I want.
It gives you a license for sure. Bob, and I thought you were going to ask her if she was running out of alliteration because of the titles. But...
and I've got 26 letters of the alphabet, but I still got a ways to go.
Okay. So, well, you can always go, to the Cyrillic alphabet after you've run out of the English one. So. Mary, it's been a pleasure. It's been just delightful to be able to chat for a while. And Michael?
Well, I mean, before we let you go, where can people find your books? We'll make sure to include all the links. Do you have any events upcoming that we should tell people about?
I am coming to Minnesota Mystery Night in November.
Nice.
Yes, you are.
I am.
I'm looking forward to that.
And the books are available. Some of them are available at Once Upon a Crime. They are available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Kobo. So they're available online. They're around.
And we are definitely looking forward to you being a featured author in November at Minnesota Mystery Night.
It'll be fun.
And then on Masters of Mystery Radio Hour following that. So it'll be a great
so it'll be fun.
So terrific.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was wonderful chatting with you and getting to know you a bit better. So
any
murder weapons.
Oh,
any last words?
That was it. Just watch out for murder weapons.
And don't forget, you can see this book and more from Minnesota authors in the Bell Cow catalog, heading to libraries and indie bookstores across Minnesota and beyond.
Thanks for tuning in to the Bell Cow Author Roundup podcast. We'll be back next Tuesday with another amazing Minnesota author.